Now, welcome to the third part. Now, one of the things I want to start out with is when we're trying to protect intimacy, we have to realize that it's great to have willpower and strength and the best of intentions, but we also design our environment. We control what happens in our home. You decide if you have cable. You decide what movies you watch or magazines you subscribe to. You decide to get internet access in your home. Now, regardless of all of that, regardless of that, to some degree, we're going to be exposed to culture. That's just unavoidable. You're going to, unless you're living off the grid in a hole, hiding from the world, you're going to run into the culture. So to protect your family and your spouse and your relationship, you want to make your home a place of connection. To make as many points of connection as possible. You see this picture, it's literally hanging by a thread. It's that 2 minutes before I put the kids on the bus. That's when I talk to my spouse. That's not much connection. If that's the only time a day that I really spend time with my spouse, that's rough. You want to prioritize your marriage, and you want to have strategy to, have that regular time for connection, whether you meet for dinner as a family as often as possible, whether you make sure that you arrange for a date night, whether it's in home or out of the home. Remember, you don't have to go to expensive restaurants and do overnight things. That's all great, and I encourage that if you can do that. But sometimes real life is different. It's really just putting the kids down and having a night to yourself with your spouse, with the laptop gone or the TV off and your cell phone turned off. Order your life towards connection, not escape. Remember, you want to make sure that that other person knows that you love them and you want to connect to them. Because pornography comes about as a form of disconnection. You don't know them, what their dreams are, what they're going through, and there's no communication. Now, I want to tell you a little story as we're talking about controlling the environment. And one of the things I find incredibly useful is just to realize that our lives are complicated by technology. So there's a good friend of mine, and he was having a lot of stress with work and in his marriage. And one of the things that he learned to do, and many people have told me this over the years, is that he had two cell phones, one for work, obviously, and then he had one that was his personal one. But he just had to put them away so that he had boundaries between him and his technology, so that he couldn't access social media or email or the internet, because it just became a form of disruption to his relationship and connection with his spouse. Remember, you got to think about it. What do you want to connect to besides your spouse and the people that you love and the people in your family? And so make sure that you have firm boundaries with technology and limit that if at all possible. Remember, these things aren't, coming out of your dresser drawer and coming up to you and going, please email me. You got another email. If the cell phones start walking, you got other problems. Now, one of the big things I want to share with you as we kind of close out this series is that at the heart of real love and intimacy is the decision to make a gift of yourself. Daily commitment to discipline is a requirement, if that's to take place. So disciplining yourself is also an act of great self-love. If you can't say no to yourself, how can you say yes to your spouse? Individuals with less discipline have less to give, and this creates frustration and limited ways to participate in the marriage. It makes us lazy, it makes us feel unattractive, it makes us feel out of control. It also puts us more at risk to engage in sexually disordered behaviors and to try to escape actual periods or times of intimacy. Why? Well, because I become a slave to myself. And like I said earlier in this series, you need to be mindful of what you say yes to, because every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to everything else. And so we have to be very mindful of how we boundary ourselves and the ways that we take up discipline. So remember that love is a decision to make a gift of yourself to the other person. Now, as our society struggles with a deep sense of shame and a visceral desire to compete, we feel like we're never enough. We're not intelligent enough, sexy enough, successful enough, good enough moms, or good enough spouses, or good enough dads, good enough lovers, whatever. This shame and competition that we live around will breed more disconnection, more fear, and make us lose sight of who we are and who we are in a relationship with, which is our spouse. So in marriage, one of the things that I talk about, and I talk about it with my own wife, is that this competition needs to be replaced by a different game. And the game I would love to give you to start playing is contribution. Look for a way to make a difference every day. Every day for your children, for your spouse, for the people you see. Be useful to them. And see that you are enough. And work to communicate that truth to your spouse every day. Make sure that they know by how you talk, by how you love, by how you live, that they are enough. And with that, I think we'll have greater, more remarkable, healthier marriages where pornography is not attractive. Real love is attractive. So thank you for sticking it out with me. All the best to you and your families.